Hopefully you can hear me now. Like I said before, or just said, this is my first time doing this. Thank you very much. Thank you. A few people have been asking me how I edited the text on a certain 3D printing project that I did a little bit ago. And so, we're going to learn how to do that right now, all of us together. This is just an object that I found online. This is, as far as YouTube's concerned, this is nothing at all. So we're going to figure out how to get rid of this text. There's a couple different ways to do it. So we're going to kind of go through what you would do for this model. We've got it loaded up into Fusion 360. It came up automatically in inches. That's totally fine. So this right here, I don't know about you, but I hate it. We got a few different options. We can see that this is raised up. The letterings are raised down. So, one thing that we could do is we can come in here, we could raise each lettering up, then we can raise this down. I think that's a waste of time. We're going to make a box around everything. This raised bit, we're going to crank it all the way down to just delete everything and then raise it back up. So how are we going to do that? Well, it's honestly not that hard. We've got this outline right here. First, we kind of want to see how far we want to go down. So I can use this inspect tool and I can see how long this line is, 0.038. And I can see how long this line is, 0.05. So our square is 0.038. Our text is 0.05 inches deep. We want to remember that because, some guy named Anderson or Potato Society or something decided on that and it was very important. So we want to respect that and we want to keep it. So what we want to do is we want to take and select this thing right here, this whole outside, because this is the plane of which we're going to start our extrusion. Once we've selected that, we can come over here to, we want to select that, and then we want to select create a sketch. And we're going to create a sketch on this plane. Now, we're upside down, that's totally fine. We can come up here and we get our square tool, make a square over everything, and finish that sketch. So now we can take it, we can hit this outside, and it's kind of, trying to be smart and be like, hey, do you really want this inside portion too? Well, yes. So we can hold shift, we can do that inside portion too. And now we want to extrude everything down, and that's going to erase that text that we don't want. So we can hit extrude. It's going to ask us what direction we is. We want to go negative, right? So the cool thing about Fusion is we can go negative 0.038. And what we can do is we can add to that. We want to subtract our 0.05. And that's going to take all the way down that ledge, all the way down to the text. We want to make sure we're at cut, and we can hit OK. And then bada bing, bada boom, our text is gone. We have this big square, but this is the easiest thing to get rid of. We can click inside this square. We want to extrude, and this time we're going to extrude up. We got two options. We can either go distance 0.05, because remember, that's how far down we cut. Or another thing we can do is we can change this extend distance. We can change that to object, and we can click what in line we want it with. We can click it in line with that. It's going to raise it way up. We want it in line with this plane right here. Hit OK. And then we've gotten rid of the text. It's completely plain. Some downsides to doing this method are we have a little nick right here. If we really wanted to, we could fix that. I don't care. So we're not going to do anything like that at all. The other method some people might do is they might come in here and they might click in here and they might hold shift and they might do a couple, and then they'll extrude it up, and then they'll extrude it to the object. That can be done too, but it's tedious. It's boring. Who wants to do that? Is any of this making sense? If anything's not making sense, please let me know in the chat. We'll go back, we'll look at it. That's totally fine. But the next thing we want to talk about is how do we add our own text? Well, let's say we want this to be, let's throw a cheap shot. Let's throw, the name cheap shot in here, right? So we can click this surface. Once again, this is the surface that we want to do everything on. Could you do with the We'll see about that. We're going to get through this first. So we want to go here. We want to create a sketch. How did I get these black and white lines? So this is a personal preference. If you click this button, let me close out of this sketch real quick. If you click this button down here, if it's going to work for me. I don't know why these buttons aren't working. But you can click this button right down here, and you can change the preference, whether you want to view it shaded, or whether or not you want to view it as a wireframe or something like this. So this is just how I prefer to view my things. So we want to hit this plane. This is where we're creating our sketch from. If you don't like working upside down, we can flip it around. That's totally fine. And we want to make it say cheap shot. So we're going to go create, text, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Where do we want the text? We want it right here. Cheap shot. We can make it bold. We can change the font. We can do all that stuff. But I'm perfectly fine with what we're doing. So let's make it 1/5 of an inch. And we can slide it around and whatnot right there. So cool, we got the cheap shot. And we want to extrude that down. So we can, it's super simple. We can just click on our cheap shot logo. We can extrude it down. And we want to go -0.05. Boom, we've got our own text in there. Now this will be fun if you want to do it on that side, if you want to come over here, if you want to change your selection, you know, makes it say something funny, that's totally fine. That's what you can do. Now another thing is let's add a picture. This is the fun part, right? We want to make this stuff our own. What picture are we going to do? Let's just go, let's give it a EGA. So we want it to be nice and high resolution, and that's mostly because we're going to convert it to a file that Fusion 360 can work with easily. So I don't know one. I did an EGA earlier, so I'm just going to keep using that one. Or vector, you can use a vector, that's fine. But once you find one that you like, you want to right click on it, you want to save it, totally fine, wherever you want. And then you want to use a converter. So this is a JPEG to SVG converter. This is what I use for everything. We want to choose our file, and I'm going to use the one that I downloaded earlier. Oh, of course, it's not easily accessible. Sorry, I just got to find out where I saved the other one. Whatever. We'll use that one. And it's going to convert it to SVG, start our conversion. And then we'll download it. I won't download it because I want to use my old one. So how do we put that into our print? Well, we want to click the same surface that we want to work on. Are you noticing a trend? We want to create a sketch. Let's just flip it around so we can see it a little bit better. And we want to insert an SVG. This is where we can put that SVG that we just downloaded. So you click on it, you can't find it, zoom out a little bit, she's over here, right? We can zoom it around, flip it around. We want to scale it a little bit, it's too big, so I can come over here, I can scale, let's say 0.5. One thing to remember is if I type in 0.5 and then I move it, it technically goes back to 1. So if I want to move it again, and I want to cut it in half again, I got a 0.5 again. So zooming in, woo. We'll just move it. Let's get it a little smaller. Keep in mind I moved it, I can't 0.5 again or it's going to get super small. So if I did that, we get super small. So I want to go something like 0.9. You know what? That works. So if I like that positioning, I can finish my sketch. It's going to take a little bit for Fusion. Sometimes these lines kind of make it complicated. And then we can come in and we got that image right there, nice and perfect. So we want to inlay that in. We can either put it out or inlay it in. Inlay it in is the preferred method. So just like we did everything else, we're going to hit extrude and we're just going to click in the center of all these different things that we want to extrude in. Now this is going to take me quite a while. I should have done something a little bit quicker. We'll do everything but the rope. I think y'all know what this looks like. So one thing to notice is this will be fine with the rope, but if you're doing things with lots of fine detail, you're gonna have issues with that fine detail coming out when you actually print it. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for an image. You want a high resolution, and you want to make sure that you're not going too deep in the details. Distance, what are we going to do? You guessed it, negative 0.05. And then we hit OK. Fusion might take a second, lots of complex geometry, and then boom, we're done. We got our own image in line with the item. It's not anything more complicated than that, and then you can do whatever you want with it. This will work with any type of file that you have, as long as you can bring in Fusion's 360 and it's a part file or a step file. It'll be easy peasy lemon squeezy. Are there other ways to do this? Yes, there are other ways to do this. You could actually look through the progression of how whoever made your file actually made your file, and you can step back or suppress certain features. That doesn't always work because that may not be provided for you, but this will work. This way will work. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. If you guys, I'm going to get a drink real quick, so hold on a second. All right. What else do you guys want to know how to do? Just simple things with Fusion. Let me know in the stream chat. What is this? Could you do the FGC 9 lower with the J Stark watermark so I can see everything from the beginning? I want to be careful with the files that I use, just because of YouTube. So, I mean, I don't think I'll do that just right, but I mean, it's the same process, you know, just get that SVG, insert it, extrude it down. It's no different, no matter what you're doing. Even if you were to just make a random part right now by yourself, it would be the same exact process. So if anyone else got anything with Fusion, I'd be more than happy to answer that. One thing that I did is I used, you know, some squares to kind of extrude out just to kind of make this a little bit different. So let's see what else we can do. Let's say like this edge right here, right? You don't like that it's sharp. This is a top edge, so you don't want to use a fillet because 3D printers they'll have a hard time getting that rounded surface on the top of your print. Remember, this print's like this. So you, if you kind of want it a little bit less sharp or something, you could use a chamfer. You can just click on that line, and then you could bring it down and just kind of make it kind of a slot. It's not going to work because of other reasons. What about this token on the other side? I don't know about you. I really don't like I'm very new to Fusion, but I know Blender a bit. How do I select individual letters? Just select them, man. Just select them just like this. Just in there. Extrude it. Pull it out. Right? Distance to object. That slice. And she's gone. So let's see how to get rid of this token. I personally, I don't like the whole token thing, but I didn't design it, so I don't have too much room to talk. You know, you can take and you can do a circle. We'll just do a 3-point circle. It won't lock onto this, but you can do a 3-point circle right above it on top. We can come down and just do it pretty close. And then it's going to ask us how we want our third point. We just want it right out there. That makes a circle around it. We can finish our sketch. And just like before, we can click in the middle, hold Control, or Shift, I'm sorry, to get everything. And we're going to extrude it down to object. This line right here, or this plane, I mean. Hit OK. And we've cut the token away. Well, for the most part, it looks like it's inlaid a little bit. No problem, because I can click inside and I can extrude it up. Done. There's this little line right here. That must have just been an issue with my 3-point circle. Wasn't the best way of doing that. So I can click that. Extrude. Oh. Just make the circle better. You can get that. Fixing that, I don't really care about it. It's not worth it. Mine does not do that, just selects the whole blob of stuff. Maybe it's because I put the STL file into Fusion. Yes, it's because you put the STL file into Fusion. Use the step file, right? So what is she asking about? Well, if I come over here and I want to open a file, right? I come to where I got all this stuff loaded, right? Let's say I'm doing the Anderson Hellfire. If I do the STL, it's gonna come out. It's gonna come looking like this. Jesse, is this what it looks like? I'm sure this is what it means to look like. You don't want this. We want to use the part files, or I'm sorry, not the part files. We want to use the step files. So not STL, step files. What else has anyone got? Let's take this and let's pretend we're gonna, yep, that's what it looks like. So Jesse, you want to make sure you do the part file. So let's take this and let's actually, let's load it into a slicer and see what it looks like. So we're gonna hit save that as a STL, right? And we'll save it up here. And we'll call it a stream. We'll open up Cura and take a look at this. So we got Cura right here. You should have your slicer profiles all set up. We're going to click on this. What did we name it? We named it Stream, didn't we? Oh no, it's so tiny. And that is because it's in inches and Cura loaded it in millimeters. So I don't remember what, 254 I think. So we're going to click on this and we want to scale it. I think 254,000. There we go. And there we go. Now we put it from millimeters. I'm sorry, from inches to millimeters. So one thing to remember is we get our strength from layer lines, not from infill. So you still want to have a good amount of infill on this, just because you want it to have a little bit of mass, but you also want to have good layer lines. I believe it says something like 5 wall count, 4 wall count. When I printed this, I did a 5 walls, 5 top layers, 5 bottom layers. I think I did 90 to 95% infill. I don't ever do 100% infill. I just hate it. I think you're gonna mess up too much. You might have an issue. Like I said, 90, 95 will do it for you. But just one thing you want to kind of check is you want to kind of look down your print and you want to look at these walls. So this thing, this isn't, you don't need to worry about this. But if you come up where like, let's say, this is a good wall section. That is going to be a long, continuous wall that needs strength, right? So if we have a gap between these two, and it's gonna spend so much time. Number one, it's gonna be weaker. We have a gap between those two walls to compress. But then number two is it's gonna spend so much time doing those wall layers and then coming back and filling in the little infill bits. We don't want to do that. So I'll show you what I mean. If I put my wall count to 1, it's not gonna be enough for that area. See how it's gotta come in and do this? And it's just going to take forever, right? So right now we're at infill at 2 hours and 12 minutes. It's going to have to come all the way around, do all these barriers, and it's just going to take forever, and it's not going to be stronger. So if we do 5, we're at 10 hours and 2 minutes. If we do 5, how much time is that going to add? It may even be less. All right, it adds 2 hours. But I tell you what, because you got other spots down here where it's doing all that infill down there and whatnot. But, just make sure your walls look good. Take the time to come in here and inspect how it's going to be going, all right? Remember, your strength comes from your walls, not from your infill, right? This one did great for me with no support or no adhesion type. Get yourself a deburring tool. That's great for just running down prints, just kind of cleaning it up a little bit. All right. Wouldn't a lower percentage be less strong? Sorry, I didn't see that. Like I said, your strength comes from your walls, not from your infill. Still do like a 90 for this, you know, just in case, just for a little bit of mass, but the majority of your strength comes from those walls, not the infill. So, any other questions, throw it in the chat. And, you know, you want me to make a part, you want me to, you know, do something else with this, do a different image, show it all again, let me know. So we'll kind of chill for a few minutes and see what you guys think. Really appreciate y'all being here, every single one of you. You rock my socks. It's fantastic. Please check out those links. Please subscribe. Instagram, the YouTube, the Patreon. Although I wouldn't give me money, so I don't expect anyone else to give me money. Yeah, that'd be cool. Anyone else? Jesse, any other questions? All right. Well, if no one has anything, then I'm gonna dip out. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching Cheap Shot. Have a great night. Oh, join the Discord. If you're not on the Discord, join the Discord. The link's in the description. And then you can ask me other questions. Oh, okay. Oh, can you show a bit of how to measure and do dimensions in Fusion? Cool tricks and tricks. I can do that. I can do that. How to do measure and do dimensions. Like I said, let's say, I don't know. Let's do a part, right? I don't know. What should we make? What do I got around me? I don't know. Let's just make something. Let's make a calculator, right? So if we're starting off with nothing, right? And we want to click on sketch, and then we got a few different things we can make. We have these 3 planes and then these 3 axes, right? Oh, I know. So I just made this little motor mount, right? And you know, it's because I'm going to make my own 3D printed tumbler. So this is kind of fun. This is going to be the next video. We'll show you how I made this motor mount. So I want to work on this plane right here. Why? Who knows? This is a center point. Let's try and keep using the center point because it is going to have an axis running through it, which we're going to use later, especially if we're going to be making these circular parts. So this is just like before where I was working on that layer of the part, except now I'm working on a plane. I don't have anything to work with, so we're going to make it. So what's the first thing for this motor mount? Well, I kind of got this part coming out, you know, so I actually will open the one that I made just so we can see. So here's the one that I actually made. We have a motor and the motor mount, right? So the first thing that I wanted to do with this is I wanted to make the motor. So I guess we'll do that. I guess we'll make the motor. And I'm going to take and I'm going to measure the motor, and it's going to be 50 millimeters wide, 50 millimeters in diameter. And I'm going to hit my sketch, and I just got this circle just floating into space, and I need to make it a cylinder. So I want to click on it, and I want to extrude it out. Just, you know, think of any shape. You know, I remember when I was younger, we were in the Cub Scouts, and we had a bar of soap, and you had to whittle it into something. And I was going to whittle into a bear. And I asked my dad, how do I turn this bar of soap into a bear? And he said, well, it's easy. Just take the bar of soap and cut away anything that doesn't look like a bear. And I thought he was a jerk. But you know what? He was right. This is just the same thing in reverse. So let's say it's 45 degrees out, 50 degrees wide. This is our motor, right? We come in here in the center. We still got that spindle. Let's say we give it a spindle that's going to be 10 millimeters. And we'll extrude it out 10. We're just kind of throwing things out here, just kind of seeing how it does. If we look at this, you see that I have holes for where it threads in, and that came with the motor. So how do we make those holes? It's great. We're going to go on the surface. We're going to put our holes. We'll measure it. Well, we want to use this circle, 2-point circle. Let's say those are our holes. Hit OK. Those are, 16 millimeters deep. But how do we get them around? Do we go and we do those circles all the way around? That's kind of tedious. That kind of sucks. One thing that we can do is we can do what's called a revolve feature around an axis. So we want to come down here to create, and we have all these different things. We've just been using the sketch and extrude, but we have all these different things. And I really like that it kind of gives you, it kind of shows you what it does. But we want to come over here to the pattern tool, and we want to do a circular pattern, right? So it popped open. What object do we want to do? We got to select that. So we can select the hole down here. I just like selecting down here, that extrusion that I did. And then we need to access. So we need to select that, and we need to tell it where around do we want to do our circle. Well, we want to do it around this center point right there. This center point is also just happens to be the center point of this circle, so we can click this circle, we click that circle, we can click that axis. Totally fine. If you click the circle, it's going to do the center point of the circle. But we'll click the axis. I'm sorry, I keep saying axis. Axis. We got 3. We can kind of change how many we want. If we want 1,000,000, if we want a lot, whether or not we want them equal distance, whether or not we want them a certain angle. We'll say that we want 6 of them. We hit OK. Boom. We got them. 6 equal circles around that axis, which is exactly what we needed for our holes. That's exactly what we needed. It was perfectly fine. So that's a pretty cool one. You could also do things where, so when I had made these holes right here, so let's, I didn't make a new part, but that's fine. So let's say, I click on this face, and let's say I have like a mounting bracket with it, right? Let's say this is 60, this is 60. Finish that. Let's just say this mounting bracket was already attached to it. One thing that you can do is I can come up here, I can create a sketch, and I want some like bigger holes up in the corner, right? Some, main mounting ones. I can extrude those out just like I did before. Remember, I can come to a distance, or I can hit to object. The to object is going to be better, because that way if I were to change the thickness of that plate, it's going to continue to go all the way through. If I just did it at a distance, let's say I just said 5, and then I change this thickness here to 6, well, it's only going to go 5. So if I do it to a face, if I change that face, it'll always change with it. So if I extrude this out, that circle comes with it. But if I had changed that to 5 and hit OK, well, it would still do it. And I made this, -10, the circle doesn't come with it. So it's important to kind of set yourself up for success in case you need to come back and you need to fix something. So I have this in the corner. How do I get in the other corners? I can measure. That's dumb. Takes forever. Create. Same thing. Pattern tool. Rectangular pattern. What object do I want? This object right here. I can click on it. The directions. I want it to go in one direction across the top, one direction across the bottom. I can just hit that plane and this line right here. And you can either use this or you can drag it. Oh, look, see how it made that beautiful rectangular pattern? We just went 2 in that direction, 2 in that direction. You kind of have the different things to where you want to do it. You can either use some measurements, whatnot. You can kind of eyeball it. Fusion 360 is really good at snapping things together where they want to go. And you can hit OK. And then boom, I got my motor mounts on the outside. I got everything clipped in just like that. Now, some things for your 3D printing. Let's Control Z this all the way out. Let's say, you know, I wanted to print this. We'll get rid of this. Let's say I was wanting to print this just part as it was. So what would be the best way to print this? Well, it'd probably be to put it face down, right? Because if I did it like this, I'm gonna have a lot of supports over here. So we want to go face down. What are some things that we can do to make the part stronger? I love chamfers. I love it. I absolutely love them. I use them all the time. And it's going to be really great at making your walls a lot stronger because you're not at a 90-degree angle where just one layer is hooking onto another layer, and that's where your weak spot is. You kind of bring it up. So you can come over here to modify, and you can do a chamfer. And I can click on anything. I click on this object right here, and I can do it to a mount, or I can slide it. And it'll kind of chamfer it a little bit. It'll warn me if it gets to like 0, but I can make that if I really want it pretty. As far as strength goes, I can do it down here, and I can kind of beef this up a little bit just to kind of give it some more strength. I can also do that around the outside too. Another thing you can do is a fillet. A fillet is the same thing as a chamfer, except it's round. That works most on these axis right here, so where it's going up and down. It does not do well 3D printing like this. If I have it in the Z direction and it comes up, it doesn't do that very well. If you want it to be smooth right there, use a chamfer, don't use a fillet. But I can fillet in here, and I can kind of round it out a little bit, make it look pretty. And that really steps up your design game. Here's what we were talking about before, Jesse. You can come to visual styles. We have shaded. As you can see, I don't really like that. Most people go shaded with hidden edges. Most people stick with this right here. That's mostly what they design in. Wireframe. Hate wireframe. Absolutely hate it unless you need to see into something. Wireframe with hidden edges. Lately, I've just been doing wireframe with visible edges only. I think that's been working perfect for me. So, all right, LC, did that kind of work for you? Well, you kind of want to talk about inspect. I can click this inspect feature, and you know, if I click on this circle, it's going to tell me its diameter, its radius, right? If I click, you know, this object right here, it's going to tell me its area. But another thing I can do is I can hit inspect, and I can hit this line, and I can flip over here, and I can hit this line, and it'll tell me the distance between them. That's an interesting thing that you'll probably end up using a lot. So thanks, LC. Anything else anyone got? All right. Well, if no one has anything else, like I said, please join the Discord. I'll be there answering some questions. The link is in the description, and I much appreciate it. So thank you. Have a good night.